I was asked to talk about this article, Romanians in the UK. If we go, who will do the jobs after Brexit? I always love this question. Why is no one asking who will do the jobs in Romania? There is a massive shortage of labor force in my country right now, but no one gives a shit. Right? Like, all we care about is England. Fair enough. All right. So I understand England used to be this third world nation before Romanians arrived, like before the European Union. And I also heard that the only way you can find a job in another country is through the European Union. Like, if, for instance, Brexit happens and I, as a Romanian citizen, would apply for a job online and I would be hired by a British company, there is absolutely no way that I can have the papers required to go to Britain and work, right? Without the European Union, none of this is possible. It's interesting that a lot of Romanians are going in Canada and America and they're finding jobs there, and they're not in the European Union. But all right, I guess they might have found some magical way of doing it. So Romanians recently overtook the Irish and Indians as the second biggest immigrant community in the United Kingdom, but they are among the most vulnerable in the country after Brexit, according to a leading charity advocate for East Europeans in the UK. I wish these leading charities would give a shit about Romania. You know, like, do you know who's the most vulnerable about people leaving Romania? Romania. Like, literally, there's not enough people here to fill in the labor shortage. And not only that, the population in Romania is aging. In a couple of years, there's only going to be a lot of old people. Who's going to pay for their pension? Who's going to pay for their healthcare? No one. Absolutely no one. But no one cares. Okay, let's talk about Britain. Britain is number one concern. All right, sure. And I really think you care about Romanians, The Guardian. I think you really give a big shit about the Romanian people. Many fill vital jobs that keep Britain's supermarket shelves stocked. The elderly in care homes fed and the hotel rooms clean, but there have been fears that social and economic isolation among those in the low-skill sector would prove a calamitous mix for the many who would wish to remain in the country after Brexit. Okay, first of all, if you already have a job right now, I don't think that Brexit is going to get you sent home. What will happen, however, is that it's going to be more difficult for Romanians right now to find a job in the United Kingdom after Brexit. So we're not even worrying about the people who are already there. And secondly, you're basically saying that Romanians are cheap labor. Like, they're doing the shitty jobs in Britain. Wow, really nice. I guess this is the argument. You really care about the Romanians. You know, what will happen with our plantations if we let the slave go free? That is pretty much the argument that we're seeing here. And it's out of the compassion of the left. I am already moved and touched. The majority of EU citizens are not very well informed about Brexit. Well, hold on a little bit. The majority of EU citizens are not informed about how the EU works. But all right, let's talk about Brexit. And the settled status and Romanians are no exception. The language barrier, the fact that most Romanian citizens don't follow UK media at all, makes them quite vulnerable. Okay, so I just want to point it out. If you're a Romanian and you're in Britain and you don't fucking speak English by now, I have absolutely no sympathy for you. You chose to go into that country. Learn the fucking language. It's not that hard. In Romanian schools, they teach English. Like, there is absolutely no way you can function in a society that is English without knowing the language. So no, I don't give a single fuck if they haven't learned the language. Moving on. From our field research and extensive outreach within the Romanian community, which, by the way, when they say Romanian community, they don't ask the people who live in Romania, right? Just to be clear. They don't give a fuck about Romania. All they care about is having their cheap labor that they can exploit. Because heaven forbid Brexit happens, and then those hotels and those good-natured supermarkets actually have to increase the wages to attract British workers. That is all what it's about. It's cheap labor, right? It's basic economics. People are willing to pay as low as possible for labor. But if the labor doesn't come and people aren't showing, they'll have to increase the wages. And this is what's about. This is why the corporations are pressuring the EU constantly, right? This is why they want to open their business to the entire world. Because then there's more people willing to come in. But anyway, moving forward. From our extensive reach within the Romanian community, we noticed that many Romanians think that the settled status will be an automatic process, that as long as they pay taxes and are law-abiding citizens, everything is going to be okay. All right. Now, I actually think that everything is going to be okay. However, if it's not happening and I am wrong, blame the fucking European Union. Like, look at the Brexit negotiations. All that happened is that Theresa May has been denied time and time again. The EU wants to make Britain a vassal state. Theresa May approached this with, I don't know if anyone can blame her and say that she was disingenuous. She approached this with an open mindset, and she actually wanted to have a deal. But the EU keeps going, nah, 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 nah. And I think the reason they do this is because they want another Brexit referendum. They want the people to be scared. They want the people to think that Armageddon is coming if a hard Brexit will be implemented, so they want a second referendum. They're probably not going to get a second referendum, and they will get a hard Brexit. So every single Romanian, if you're upset about this, you can still vote for the EU. You know, just make sure that you looked at the people who denied Theresa May's checkers deals and you never vote them into office again. Make sure you're very vocal about it. It's probably not going to do shit because the EU Parliament has absolutely no power. But it's still like, if you want to blame someone, that's who you should blame. The Guardian accompanied Tudose to meet some of the Romanians in communities in 2 areas of north of London. Right, okay, so you're not actually talking to the Romanian government, you're not talking to the Romanian people, you don't give a flying fuck, you're using these people as a shield in order to further your political agenda. One woman in her 40s is a Romanian butcher shop explained she had no worries about Brexit. I lived in Italy for 17 years, I don't know if I was illegal, nobody cared. I wasn't stopped once. Why should it be any different here? Well, you couldn't be illegal in Italy because of the European Union and the Schengen area. Well, actually, 17 years, that's way before. Whatever. Others wrongly believed the Home Office knew who they were, and as long as they paid taxes, registration would be automatic. They will send us letters. One 20-something staff assistant tells Tudose, I am not worried at all about Brexit. Why should I be? I have been here 9 years and pay taxes, and they will see that. She says, betraying an alarming lack of knowledge about the Home Office plans or the consequences of not registering, which could include deportation or denial or re-entry. Why the fuck can't they register? That's another question. I don't think the British government is going to want to deport all immigrants overnight that have EU citizenship. If they do that, it's going to collapse their economy. So I do think this is, again, like Guardian fear-mongering 101. But anyway, moving on. Sadly, you hear this a lot. How are the Home Office going to get to these people? This is why we are worried. A closer look at the Romanian interview by The Guardian revealed that all have come to Britain to better their lives, not to take benefits. Listen, okay, I'm sure they came there to better their lives. I'm not saying they haven't, but it makes the lives of Romanian back here worse. I'm not blaming them because they are smart people that are taking advantage of a system. But the fact it's so easy to leave one's country and search for better pay somewhere else means that your country is going to suffer. You know, maybe if these people would have stayed in Romania, we could have fought corruption together. Maybe they would have formed a party and they would have changed things for the better. Maybe they would have improved the system. But if you have like a boiling pot that's about to explode under pressure, and you have this valve that, you know, the people who are dissatisfied keep leaving, you're never going to fix the problem. Again, I'm sorry, but this is the cold hard truth. You know, I'm sorry if some Romanians who left don't really feel that because leaving, they're making the country worse off, but it's objectively true. It's an objective fact. Okay, when people can't find employment, people here can't find anyone to employ. Like, there is a huge wage shortage. Elderly are not going to be able to get pensions. They're not going to be able to get healthcare, and they paid in the system the entire life. They paid taxes for it, and now they're not going to get it. It's going to be a problem. But anyway, right. Several parents tell heartbreaking stories about leaving children behind with grandparents. So desperate they have been to provide for their families. Hey, well, yeah, what about those children that have been left behind? If Brexit happened and they couldn't have gone to Britain, the children wouldn't be left behind, families wouldn't be separated. Guardian, hello, there's another story you're not looking at, or you don't give a shit. Probably don't give a shit. Your cheap labor is more important. Cheap labor more important than your fucking empathy. Although the dictator communist Nicolae Ceausescu collapsed almost 30 years ago, and Romania had the record growth of 7% last year, it doesn't reflect into the pockets of the citizens, by the way. Communism has cast a long shadow and the country remains ranked as the second poorest EU nation in Europe. Right, isn't it a little bit just a little bit, like a piece of shit of having a country that's not ready, forcing it into the European Union. Just say, like admitting it, not forcing it, sorry, but admitting it in the EU if it's not economically ready. How is Romania supposed to compete with Germany if people can just get off their asses and move to Germany? Like, how is the Romanian businessman supposed to compete with that? If I want to start a business in Romania, like let's say I want to start a private hospital or some shit, how can I attract doctors to my hospital when they're paying over 2,000 euros in Germany? I can't pay a doctor that much. It's fucking impossible with this economy. But somehow, right, doing this doesn't screw the country over. You don't see a problem with doing this. All right. Oh, and not to mention that the EU forces us to have the same gas prices like in Germany and the rest of the EU, but the wages are not the same. All right? And somehow I'm supposed to look at this and say, oh wow, that is so bad. That is horrible. Brexit. Oh, bad thing. Fucking hell. Others complained that British people were ignorant about Romania and Romanians, with one protesting, if Romania is as bad as the British think, why has Prince Charles bought so much property there? Well, as the common joke goes, the land is beautiful, but the people are shit. Like, when you buy a property, you put a fence. Just saying. Like, I don't understand this argument. I'm not saying that the people in Romania are shit, but there can be a reasonable explanation that I can give just to mock you when you bring this shit up. Anyway, moving forward. What will England do without us? Says Dragos. Well, Dragos, I think they're going to collapse. I think if you leave in 20 years, when you go back to Britain, it's going to be a fucking desert. Like no one is going to know what to do. What will they do without people selling in supermarkets and whatever the Guardian said before, taking care of the old? I think it's going to be a dystopian. And he works in a Romanian restaurant at Dollis Hill, north of London. What does Romania do without you, Dragos? What does Romania do without you? Huh? Good question. Like, do you know how difficult it is to find good food in Romania? Maybe you can serve some of this shit to me. I would probably pay for it. What do I do without your cooking, Dragos? He was lured in the UK from Germany. Oh, there you go, Germany, UK. Like, why work in Romania? Why bust your ass for $200 when you can bust your ass for $2,000? I completely sympathize with you, Dragos. I completely understand. But don't think for a second that this is fair to Romania. Don't act like this is something that is going to benefit the country. British people accounted for just 10% of the staff, but they weren't considered reliable. They would call in sick, especially after the weekends, and then the Romanians would be called in to go in and cover for them. Oh wow, okay, right, fine. So you're saying that British people are pieces of shit. This is from The Guardian, by the way. Right? The Guardian is publishing this shit. How did the British manage to have an economy? How did they manage to have an empire? They keep calling in sick. They don't go to work, they're lazy people. Well, luckily we got Dragos here. We got Dragos to cut the potatoes, to go like... and take over for the British person. Brilliant. If it wasn't fair, last year in November, December, during the bad weather, they all called in to say they couldn't come in. There was only 2 centimeters of snow. Dragos, again, you come from the cold steppes of... Like, Romania is like the cold steppes of Siberia for these people. You understand? They don't fucking know how to drive when there are 2 centimeters of snow. Like, I said this on my channel. It's like, look, if they're snowing and it's bad, like if the roads are slippery, you shouldn't drive more than 20 kilometers an hour, especially in the city. And people are like, 20 kilometers an hour. They don't understand this phenomenon. Like, they don't know that the country is not built to operate under such difficult conditions. They don't even put chains on their wheels. They don't know how to deal with winter. So yeah, for them, a single snowflake is a calamity. It's like 28 days later, they don't understand. They're running like zombies on the streets because the car is coming after them. Anyway, so basically he's saying that, British people are lazy. I've never heard this argument before. Wow. Asked what he thinks the British think about Romania, Dragos says, every shepherd has his black sheep, so do countries. He is referring to the criminals in his community. Why does the Guardian put air quotes? If you're going to put air quotes around criminals, do you think they're less of a criminal or what? Anyway, who says gives Romania a bad name. He shows to be honest, Romanians were the worst until you had the refugee crisis, and now we're the second worst. Accomplishment. We can't be the best at anything. Anything. Like, it has to be that we're second place every single time. He knows me videos of fancier cars and lavish mansions in his town, Sandarei, known as the Beverly Hills for Romanian gangster. It is a narrative that fits well with the Brexiteers and one that is often heard in the Romanian community. Maybe it's because it's true to the same. Maybe because there are people who go to Britain to pickpocket. Are we going to pretend it's not? Is it just like, oh, well, this rumor goes around? Why is the rumor going around? Can we get to the bottom of it? Honestly, I really hate this thing. On one hand, you got the idea that stereotyping is wrong. Fair enough, right? So we're going to say that not all Romanians are thieves. Perfect. I agree. 100% agree. But then they stereotype it in the other way. There are no Romanian thieves. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, is this legit? Like, how is this not a stereotype to say there are no Romanian thieves? This is also a stereotype. We don't have any future in Romania because of the corruption, he says. Well, Romania also doesn't have a future without you, Dragoș. Just saying. You know, people like you. Not you specifically, but people like you. If everyone leaves and everyone does what you're doing, Dragoș, do you understand that this country has no future? Maybe we should get more immigrants. This is what we do. Open the borders. Get the Chinese in. And by the way, the corruption. I really hate the idea that, the corruption. Everyone is corrupt because of the communist system, right? Like, the mentality needs to change. And people like you could do a good job in changing it. Yeah? Just saying. This is why I don't care. Like, they're asking me, a Romanian who is still in my country, to care about the people abroad. I don't. Is their problem. Brexit happens, I don't care either way. Not positive, not negative. I don't give a shit. What do you want me to say? Oh, it's so bad that these people are going to get sent back home where I live? Oh my fucking God. Romanians are going to come back home. What are we going to do? It is so bad here. I feel bad for them that they're forced to come back home. It's going to reunite those families that we early on talked about. The one that got separated. They're going to be reunited. Horrible. Over the past 20 years, Dragoș has lived in Greece, Cyprus, Belgium, Holland, Malta, Italy, and Germany. He speaks 5 languages and thinks Britain would be in trouble if it pulled up the drawbridge to EU citizens. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. Holy shit. Oh my God. It's almost like the wages are going to have to be raised. It's almost like people won't be able to just call in sick and not come to work, or they will be fired. It's almost like the economy is going to step up a little bit. Ooh, I don't know how they're going to... How did Britain manage with their British Empire, one of the largest in the world, if British people are so fucking lazy? Huh? Where will they get the women for all those low-skilled jobs? I don't know, Dragoș. Where do they get the women from? Where do women come from? They're going to have to phone the stork, Dragoș. That's what they're going to do. They're going to have to phone the stork. And hopefully more women will pop up. I don't know what I can answer to. This is legitimately the stupidest question that I have ever seen. Where will they get the women for all the low-skilled jobs? People from Britain, answer me in the comment question. I'm not even making it up. Answer me. How will you guys get the women for the low-skilled jobs? If we go home, who is going to do the jobs? It's a bit racist, but it's their own decision. Fuck me. Okay. We are all here to work. We pay taxes to pay rent, buy food, pay bank fees. Yeah, okay. So if you're going to be sent back into my country, it's racist, is it? That is horrible. You know what, Dragoș? I am waiting for you. When you come to Romania, send me an email. Tell me the restaurant where you work. I want you to cook for me. I will pay you, Dragoș. I will pay you. Come back to my country, for fuck's sakes. Make good food. Maybe that way, you know, if you have a restaurant that makes good food, it's going to attract a lot of clientele. Business is going to be booming. Eventually, maybe the wages are go up. Maybe other people, other Dragoșes are going to come to Romania, go to other restaurants, and we're going to create something. And of course, you're not corrupt. You're not going to, steal some of the food from the restaurant, or if you get into a position where you can hire people, you'll hire based on nepotism. No, because you have been to Britain. You're not corrupt, right? So without the corruption, your business will be booming. And hopefully we can fix this country if that's not too racist for you. If it's not a racist thing to do. Fuck me. This is pissing me off. Hannah, who declined to be photoshopped or named, you just named her. The name is Hannah. Okay. Has been in Britain for 2 years and she is considering going home as she has only one friend in London. She typifies the type of hard, unsung work that is done on a daily basis by EU workers. Yeah, so you're literally admitting that these are like indentured servants, like slave labor. They're being underpaid by British standards, by the way, and they're being overworked. And if you say, okay, let's let these people go, let's create our own economy, that's racist. Honestly, this is like literally the idea of saying, well, freeing the slaves is racist. Who's going to work on the plantation? Who's going to build the economy? What will happen if we don't have slavery? Ugh. Well, it's racist because think about it. Like slaves will have no jobs there. Like at least on the plantation they get food. At least on the plantation they get free meals. It's better than Africa, right? If you free them, it's racist. It's racist. That is the argument we're seeing here. Like what are they going to do? They're going to be on the street not having jobs? That's horrible. She worked for 18 months in Swindon. Hear that, Carl? Talk to Hannah. Shifted crates of chilled food. Hannah says the job was terrible. It was very hard work in a warehouse kept at between 0 and 2 degrees. You had to work very hard every day. Must pick up 2,000 boxes, milk, pizza, cooked meat, choice, yogurt. I had the target per hour, 300 cases. If you do not make that target, you go home. You were put on trial for 3 months, and if you didn't make it, that is horrible. This is brutal. What you're telling me about, as some way, if we end the system and we're going to increase the wages for the people working at, that is racist. No. Oh my fucking god, this is I can't. Why was she surprised by the vote to leave the EU? No, because you can see it on people's faces. They hate us. In the supermarket, you see how they look at you when they hear you. All right, let me explain to you why they hate you, right? It's very easy to explain. You, as many other Romanians, you go into these Romanian quote-unquote communities. You leave your family from home, right? And you go to Britain, and you live in one of these very small apartments, sometimes with 4, 5, even 9 other people. So you don't have to worry about rent. You don't have a bank loan. You already have a family, so you don't have to worry about, purchasing like a car or some shit. In fact, you don't even have a car, so most likely you don't have to pay for gas. And when you send money back home to your family, you don't have to send as much as you would send if they lived in Britain, because the prices in Romania are far lower. Now let's talk about the British person, right? So a British person has to pay rent. He probably wants to buy his own house. He probably has to pay for a car and the gas, and he has to pay for his family with British prices. So obviously the British person is not going to be willing to work for 2,000 euros a month because he literally can't afford it. He would love to work for 2,800 or something like that, right? But you, on the other hand, you're willing to work for probably even 1,500 euros a month because you can afford it. So we have like different people with different needs applying for the same job. Why would the company ever, in their right mind, raise the wages, improve the working conditions, as long as they have slaves like us willing to do the job for them? Please explain to me, right? This is why they hate you, because they understand the issue, they understand the problem, right? It is an unfair competition for them. It's not the same level. Your expenses are far lower than the expense of a British person. The English people on the farm treat everyone equally. Yeah, of course the corporation or the farmer or your employer treats everyone equally. He's more than happy to have you. He is a middle-class rich fuck that is more than happy to have cheap labor. Why would he treat you worse, right? But the working class in Britain, they hate you. And not only you, they hate everyone that's coming from Eastern Europe or from whatever place that is willing to work for less. Because it's unfair. That is why. She says fewer Romanians are now coming to Britain. All right, I'm not even going to read the rest of it because it's just absolute pure garbage propaganda. They don't care about Romania. They don't give a single fuck about Romanians. They don't care about the Romanian worker either. All they care is their cheap labor. Cheap. Gimme, as many as possible. And if the faucet gets closed and there's no more cheap labor, they're going to complain. And yes, by the way, it does help the British economy. It does help. Let's be honest. If you look at statistics, cheap labor means cheaper iPhones. That is a fact. But it's not going to help the working class, the little person. He's getting fucked. Meanwhile, the bourgeoisie, the latte socialist that gets the cheap iPhone, he benefits from it. He's more than happy. The corporations, the people that have large businesses and have access to cheap employment, they love it. That is for them. But it's not for the little person. It's not for the Romanian people who are being overworked and taken advantage of because they know that if they fire one, they can immediately hire another. And it's not beneficial for Romania as a whole. And I also hate this mentality, oh, the corruption is horrible. Listen, you bitch. Romania has progressed. You know, we're a young democracy. We just left communism. And even with our level of corruption, the Romania today is far better than the Romania from 10 years ago. We are making small steps to progressing and advancing as a nation. And you leaving and saying, oh, it's corruption, I don't care. It's not helping the situation. And just like you don't care about, being in the country and working for a low wage, I also don't care if Brexit happens and you have to come back. Why the fuck would I care? I'm here. I'm still sitting here. Yeah. Let me know what you think. Looking forward to reading the comment sections.